It was a cold autumn morning in New York. Golden leaves slowly fell from the trees, covering the sidewalks with a colorful carpet. Douglas Miller, a 35-year-old man, adjusted his hot dog cart on the busy corner of Times Square. Your warm smile and bright blue eyes contrasted with the difficulties he faced daily. Despite the financial challenges, Douglas always found a reason to smile, especially when he thought about his daughter, Raquel. Raquel, a 10-year-old girl with curly brown hair and curious eyes, was the light of Douglas' life. Since their mother left them years ago, the two have formed an inseparable duo, facing the adversities of life in the big city together. Raquel was intelligent and dreamy. She loved drawing and dreamed of being an artist one day. Douglas did his best to support his daughter's dreams, even with the limited resources he had. That afternoon, as the traffic on the street began to die down, Douglas noticed an elderly, frail-looking woman standing in front of a fancy restaurant across the street. She was wearing a worn coat and holding a small bag to her chest. His eyes showed confusion and sadness. Before Douglas could look away, he saw a waiter leave the restaurant and, abruptly, expel the lady from the entrance. Outraged by the scene, Douglas left his cart for a moment and crossed the street towards the lady. He approached gently and asked, "Are you okay? Can I help with something?" The elderly woman looked at him with teary eyes and replied in a trembling voice, I just wanted something to eat. I'm so hungry, but they sent me away." Without hesitation, Douglas smiled and said, "Don't worry, we'll solve this right now." He led her back to the restaurant, ignoring the suspicious looks from the staff. Upon entering, the same waiter who had previously kicked her out tried to intervene, but Douglas firmly stated, "This lady is my guest. Please, a table for two." Embarrassed, the waiter took them to a table near the window. Douglas ordered a hot dish for the lady and a coffee for himself. While they waited, he discovered that her name was Virginia Thompson, but he affectionately called her Miss Virginia. They talked for hours, sharing life stories and heartfelt laughs. Douglas realized that, despite her advanced age, Donna Virginia had a vibrant spirit and unique wisdom. After the meal, Douglas offered to accompany Donna Virginia to her home. On the way, he noticed that she was a little disoriented, forgetting street names and basic details. Concerned, he asked, "Donna Virginia, do you know where you live?" She frowned, confused. I think so, but everything seems so different." Realizing that something was wrong, Douglas decided to call Raquel, who had already left school and was in the nearby library. He asked her to meet them to help locate Donna Virginia's residence. When Raquel arrived, she immediately connected with the woman, asking questions and using her phone to search for information. After some time, they managed to find the correct address. When they arrived, they were greeted by a tall, elegant man, with tired eyes and concern on his face. "Grandmother," he exclaimed, relieved. "Where were you? We were so worried." Douglas explained the situation, telling how he had found Donna Virginia and helped her return home. The man, who introduced himself as Claudio Thompson, Virginia's grandson, expressed deep gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you. My grandmother has Alzheimer's and sometimes gets lost. You brought her back safely, and that means the world to our family." Claudio insisted that Douglas and Raquel come in and have tea as a thank you. During the conversation, they discovered that Claudio was a doctor at a local hospital and that he had been taking care of his grandmother since his parents passed away. The environment was welcoming, full of old photos and souvenirs that told stories of a united and loving family. The next day, while Douglas was preparing his cart for another day of work, he received an unexpected call. It was Claudio, inviting him and Raquel to lunch the next weekend. Douglas hesitated, not used to such invitations, but accepted, feeling it could be the start of something good. On Sunday, Douglas and Raquel arrived at the Thompsons' house, being warmly welcomed by Claudio and Donna Virginia. The table was full, with delicious dishes prepared with care. During lunch, conversations flowed naturally. Raquel enchanted everyone with her stories and drawings, while Douglas and Claudio discovered common interests, such as their love of music and sports. From that day on, meetings became frequent. Claudio and Douglas began to meet to watch basketball games, while Raquel spent afternoons drawing in the garden with Donna Virginia, who, despite her memory lapses, showed contagious joy in the girls' company. The friendship between the two families grew strong, bringing new colors and hope to the lives of everyone involved. One day, Raquel began to feel severe headaches and a high fever. Worried, Douglas immediately called Claudio, who told them to take her to the hospital where he worked. After detailed examinations, it was diagnosed that Raquel had a rare infection that required immediate treatment. Claudio, using all his expertise and resources, ensured that Raquel received the best possible care. It was a difficult few weeks, with Douglas spending sleepless nights at his daughter's bedside, holding her hand and telling her stories to keep her spirits up. Claudio visited constantly, bringing updates on the treatment and words of encouragement. Donna Virginia, even with her fragile health, sent letters and small gifts to cheer Raquel up. Finally, after a lot of struggle and dedication, Raquel began to show signs of recovery. The day he was discharged was marked by celebrations and tears of joy. The ordeal had further strengthened the bonds between them, showing the importance of friendship and mutual support in the darkest times. But life, unpredictable as it is, had yet another painful surprise in store. On a rainy afternoon, Donna Virginia disappeared again. The entire city mobilized in his search, with posters, advertisements, and search teams traveling to every corner of New York. Days passed without any news, increasing the despair of Claudio and everyone who loved her. Then, the devastating news arrived. Donna Virginia had been found, the victim of a car accident. The loss was a profound blow, plunging Claudio into a spiral of sadness and guilt. He isolated himself, distancing himself from Douglas and Raquel, unable to deal with the pain that consumed him. Douglas, understanding the depth of his friend's suffering, tried several times to get closer, offering support and a shoulder to lean on. But Claudio, consumed by grief, rejected any attempt at comfort, incessantly blaming himself for his grandmother's death. Determined to help, Raquel had an idea. She spent days preparing an album of memories, gathering photos, letters, and drawings that captured the happiest moments they had shared with Donna Virginia. The album not only celebrated the lady's life, but also showed the positive impact she had on the lives of everyone around her. With the album in hand, Douglas and Raquel went to Claudio's house. They knocked on the door repeatedly until he, with a haggard appearance and red eyes, finally answered. Without saying a word, Raquel handed him the album and said softly, "She wouldn't like to see you like this. Your grandmother taught us about love and strength. Let these memories help you move forward." Claudio, touched by the gesture, began leafing through the album. Tears streamed down his face as he relived every moment captured on the pages. When he reached the end, he looked at Douglas and Raquel with gratitude and deep emotion. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I needed this. I don't know how I could stay away from you. My grandmother loved you as family." From that moment on, Claudio began to rebuild his life, supported by the affection and friendship of Douglas and Raquel. Together, they honored Donna Virginia's memory, remembering her lessons about compassion, resilience, and unconditional love. Years passed, and Raquel blossomed into a talented and determined young woman. At 18, he received a scholarship to a prestigious art school, fulfilling the dream he always carried in his heart. At the high school graduation ceremony, Douglas and Claudio were present, proud and excited to see her achieve her goals. During her graduation speech, Raquel surprised everyone by sharing a story. "Years ago, my life changed when my father reached out to someone who needed help. This act of kindness not only brought wonderful new people into our lives, but it also taught me the power of empathy and friendship. Today, as I begin a new chapter, I take with me all the lessons I've learned and hope that I can touch people's lives in the same way that so many have touched mine." After the speech, as applause echoed throughout the auditorium, Douglas held Claudio's hand, sharing a look full of pride and satisfaction. They knew that, despite all the difficulties and losses, they had built a family based on love and respect. A few months later, during a surprise visit to Raquel's campus, Claudio brought news that would leave everyone stunned. He had discovered, through old family documents, that Donna Virginia had a son who had been given up for adoption decades ago due to difficult circumstances. After deeper investigation, Claudio revealed that this son was none other than Douglas himself. The shocking revelation brought a mix of emotions: surprise, joy, and even a sense of destiny fulfilled. Douglas, who never knew his biological parents, was thrilled to discover that the woman he had helped years ago was, in fact, his own mother. The pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place, explaining the immediate connection they all felt from their first meeting. The family they had built through acts of kindness and friendship now had blood ties, further strengthening the bond between them. The story of Douglas, Raquel, and Claudio is a powerful testimony to how simple acts of kindness can transform lives in unimaginable ways. Through challenges, losses, and surprising revelations, they discovered that true family is built on love, understanding, and compassion, and that, sometimes, destiny finds mysterious and beautiful ways to unite us with the people we need most. As the sun set over the city, Douglas, Raquel, and Claudio sat together on a park bench, sharing laughter and memories, ready to face the future as the family they were always destined to be.